cryptocurrency here more recently is that the more centralized the project is, the more successful financially it ends up being. And this has been to the chagrin of everyone, including, of course, at the most probably Bitcoin maximalists.
Today's entire video, trust me, this is what most people are not realizing about this recent Bitcoin crash. Just in, as of yesterday, the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index drops to 10, extreme fear. This is largely flushing out the weak hands, the tourists. But when in doubt, zoom out and understand the handful of times that Bitcoin's Fear and Greed Index has dropped to a 10 this fast. It's very interesting on what happened next. Always what happened next. It starts from some of this great research from Terrence Michael. I'll link the full analysis down below. But this is bullish for Bitcoin, specifically when Bitcoin's Fear and Greed Index historically has gotten down this low. We now have incredible historical data on what has happened always.
Right.
Within the 1 to 2 months to follow. So historically, when the emotionally challenged tourists who don't understand Bitcoin have driven this index down into the fear zone below 25, we have followed with a massive surge in price.
8
we
months
now
left,
sit
boys.
at a 10, an even lower score than when scam bankster frauds FTX collapsed. And we can actually chart metrics like this out. You see when the Fear and Greed Index dropped anywhere below a 25, specifically below a 10. We know sellers get exhausted. The weak hands, the paper hands, get exhausted as they sell into this fear. The sellers,
I like how all of the
have
narratives are just the typical crypto bro narratives, you know, like the terms like FUD and paper hands and HODL and all these types of things. It's kind of funny because from a technical perspective, it just sounds like silly gibberish, but I do understand the sentiment surrounding it is accurate from the perspective of like, we've seen this cycle over and over and over again, and it does tend to trend up after a big dip like this, right? Especially coming into, you know, this time past the halving, right? So this dip is really kind of expected. Now, how far it goes, you know, is to be questioned. And I think the furthest we've ever seen it go down in a previous cycle was down to the previous all-time high before shooting back up again. So in this case, that could be the $60,000 range.
Exhausted. And we see this time and time and time again based on the data. During December of 2018, we reached a score as low as 8. Within 2 months after, Bitcoin's price had surged over 330% from around 3,200 to over 13,000 per coin.
Yeah.
Again, let's check back where we were.
And remember, I think it was like, I guess that is lower than the previous all-time high because the previous all-time high had been around 8 grand. Is that correct?
Just to make this easier,
it's hard to remember
where we were December of 2018. I know Altcoin Daily was making videos, and that was right around here. Bitcoin's Fear and Greed Index hit an 8.
Okay,
people
no,
were screaming,
it gone up.
The price is going to go,
it did go up
so
to
much
about 8.
lower. The weak hands, the sellers, sold into that fear. The sellers got exhausted. And again, within 2 months, we surged over 300%. We saw something similar during the COVID crash of March 2020. The Fear and Greed Index reached as low as a 9. Again, people were...
So all hashed up, you say buy more Bitcoin, but I think the fact of the matter is the economy is preventing people from having that capability of buying more Bitcoin. I think that speaks to the strength of mining versus buying, right? Is if you are mining, you kind of already own the equipment, so you can just turn on when it's profitable.
Screaming price is going to go so much lower. Think about the macro. Think of what everything is happening in the world. And sentiment dropped to as low as a 9. Within 1 month after, we surged over 75% from around 4,000 to 7,000 BTC. Even looking at around May of 2021, when the Bitcoin miners had that exodus from China. China was banning Bitcoin totally.
Stuck in my throat.
But in May of 2021, we dropped to as low as a 10. Within 2 months after, we surged over 33% from a $30,000 Bitcoin to a $40,000 Bitcoin. Granted, some of this was just a relief rally. Looking at Bitcoin today, we need some sort of a relief rally, even if we're going lower. nothing goes down in a straight line. Also, 2 days
I think that $71,000 line is technically correct as far as how low it can go, right?
in a row perfectly. We have bounced
72, I
off
think,
that
was my number.
200 simple moving average, 200-day simple moving average. These are two metrics that we've been watching for a while now. If/when we were to break down that demand zone, we had this 200-day simple moving average. That has been very important in determining whether we're in a bull market or bear market, even for shorter length of times. These next couple days are going to be vital. Can we maintain above the 200-day simple MA? If we don't, the next viable line of support, heavy support in the low $70,000 range.
Yeah.
Again, we've had these lines drawn for months. And really only because we saw such quick, immediate shoot ups in price, we can have these breakdowns in price as well. If something like this would have came along gradually, wow, actually, we're right on schedule for slow, steady growth. The issue is we climbed up so far so fast. We have these breakdowns as well, all par for the course. Anybody trading on BitUnix and you're watching some of these same metrics like moving averages, we would go edit this. We want 200-day. Right now, the daily RSI is still oversold at 24, and we're bouncing off the simple moving average. I would expect a bounce from here. Anybody that was shorting, that set your take profits right at this moving average or right above it, you made money. But point is, let's wait for a bounce, and if we don't get that bounce, or at least some consolidation to the upside, then we reevaluate based on the new information in the coming days. Our metrics show that 7 out of 10 people who watch Altcoin Daily
Make sure you guys go subscribe
to the channel.
Look, I'm
3
subscribed.
out of 10 people watch but have not subscribed yet. We are
Do
so
it.
close to hitting 1.6 million
Congrats.
subscribers. Join this army if you want an edge investing in crypto. Because the news today is this with Ethereum. Bank of America to launch a USD-pegged crypto
They really do
stablecoin.
have the formula figured out for talking about like cryptocurrency.
If
It is all the same. I feel like if you watch one of these videos, unfortunately, you kind of watched all of them. But I get it. Like, as far as like the YouTube algorithm, that's what it really likes. It just does.
lawmakers pass legislation, says the CEO.
It's pretty clear there's going to be a stable coin, which is going to be a fully dollar-backed.
This is an
type of
interesting
thing,
one.
Which is
Have
no
you guys
different than a
seen
money market
this?
fund with check access. Is no different than a bank account, really. And so, if they make that legal, we'll go into that business. So you'll have a Bank of America coin and a US dollar deposit, and we'll be able to move them back and forth because now it hasn't been legal for us to do it, but it's just then like another foreign currency. The question of what it's useful for is going to be interesting.
And by the way, David Sachs, crypto czar of the United States, has said that stablecoin legislation is the easiest. That's coming first within these next 6 months, probably 4-ish months now. So it'll be very interesting.
What is the difference between stablecoin and a central bank? Like a central bank digital currency would mean that it's under the Federal Reserve, right? So a private bank as a company, even though it has ties to the Federal Reserve running their own stablecoin, isn't technically that. So I guess that's a positive. It's still like I'm conflicted as far as this goes. Like, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? All Hashtag says he doesn't have Bitcoin miners, mostly because I don't trust hosting and not large enough to get favorable power. So host GPUs on AI platforms to buy Bitcoin. I think a lot of people are doing that. I suppose Salad's really popular, but you do have to have 90 series GPUs, right? In addition to that, I guess like pretty much if you look at any of the other AI platforms, unfortunately, they are losing profitability over and over and over again. I think it's just gotten worse and worse. There's really, even the AI side of thing, the bottom's going to come out of that at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's hard to compete with like the HX 100s, right?
Interesting to see which blockchain or multiple blockchains Bank
Vast
of
is
America
still profitable right now. Okay. Well, and I guess Vast makes sense, right? The big problem there is like how much bandwidth can you really afford to push towards it?
launches this crypto stablecoin on. This is a signal.
Is it any different than a token like Crow? So a Bank of America stablecoin Look at that. Look at that pause, dude. He almost looks like Robin Williams, man. Man, I paused that good. Is there a difference between that and Crow? No, not necessarily, right? I mean, but then you're still talking about a centralized exchange, right? I think the hard part is that decentralized platforms are slow, cost a lot of money, and don't have enough liquidity, right? And if you're centralized, you can basically solve all of those problems a lot easier. Now, I think the stepping stone to that, and the reason I'm so bullish on like Mega ETH, for example, and that project coming out, is because I do realize that the more centralized options are able to solve these problems more easily, which means that it's more appealing to retail markets, right? And Ethereum needs to solve that problem very quickly to compete with Solana, and Mega ETH is going to basically use that to compete on the layer 2 level. There were other layer 2 options that were supposed to do this, but they really haven't come into fruition fully, primarily because they still struggle with the consensus side of things, right? And what Mega ETH is going to do is remove that by running everything on a single platform on fast hardware. Now, what I suggested that you do, of course, is that you incentivize, and this is kind of funny because mining did this by nature, right? Incentivizing faster hardware to find consensus on still has to be done on proof of stake. The reason it's slow is because it does allow you to stake on a Raspberry Pi, and it does allow you to run nodes on that hardware. If you want the network to be faster, you have to incentivize running the staked nodes on faster hardware, which is pretty much what Mega ETH is going to do by basically eliminating the possibility of third parties running that software, right? And I think that you could get around that by finding some way to incentivize stakeholders essentially to run better hardware at the end of the day, as opposed to running minimum specifications. Now, you'd have to do that through an incentive structure of some sort, and that is a possibility for a proof of stake network to basically employ. You can also do this, of course, with proof of work or some form of proof of work. I don't know exactly what it would look like, right? But from a technical perspective, I do know that it would be technically possible, right?
Crypto is not going away. We have hip-hop artist Snoop Dogg backing Web3 music.
Came in the door.
Ooh, loud.
I said it before. Never with Spotify anymore. I'm only on tune.fm.
Snoop Dogg releases a new single, Spaceship Party, exclusively on
Yeah,
Tune
but do
FM.
people care enough? Like, okay, like if it was like Taylor Swift or like, I don't know, Billie Eilish or something along those lines. But do people like Snoop Dogg? I feel like is an oversaturated artist, meaning there's so much Snoop Dogg out there. And to compound that problem, not only that, but most people are just interested in his older songs. So if his older songs are available on other platforms and you're only driving via new releases, I'm not so sure that it really matters that much.
This is like a decentralized Spotify. Actually, Tune FM is Web3 decentralized
But that is cool.
music streaming platform and music NFT.
Do you own the music if you own the NFT to it, right? That's the question, you know, and where is that hosted?
Marketplace built on Hedera, but pretty cool to see which Hedera projects are making noise. It's interesting. And interesting piece of news for CookieDAO. And just as a reminder, CookieDAO is the first index and central data layer for AI agents and DeFi AI. Basically, CookieDAO is MarketingFi. It's the data layer, it's the metrics layer, it's all on-chain, automated. And the news today
so that's
is
where it's
Cookie.Fun version 1.0 is launching this quarter to showcase social and on-chain
The
intelligence.
data layer means
not
that's
just for
where
AI agents,
the
but all
information for
crypto
the
sectors,
NFT is stored,
powered by
right?
Cookie Data Swarm. An example of how you would use this information, or AI bots automate use this information. You can find the top crypto that have the most mind share, or the biggest gainers. What's gaining in mind share in crypto? So cookie.fun, very interesting. I'll put the link down below if you want to check this out. But final thought,
But
I
that's
do wanna
just
say
another pumped up
why
fun
they are
platform
expanding.
too,
Well,
right?
there isn't a single intelligent solution on the market that combines market, on-chain.
I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. If you would like to see more from this particular episode, take a look up here. Don't forget to also subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to sonofatech.locals.com and become a member. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.